Hello, and welcome to another episode of Crossing Bridges Talk Show. I'm your host, Larry Montgomery Sr. This is my co host, Will. Will, introduce yourself.
Good evening, everyone. I'm William Montgomery. It's a pleasure to be here.
And our special guest host, Jeanette.
Good afternoon, everybody. It's a pleasure to be here.
And our field agent, who just moved up to senior field agent, Kimmy. Introduce yourself.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Kimmy Van Barra, and I'm glad to be here again.
Okay. Now, Will.
Yes.
It's on you, baby.
Well, for our viewers that were here last week, we discussed CRT, critical race theory. We talked about that and the implementation of it into the school systems between K and 12th grade. So this week we're doing a part two. And we wanted to pretty much elaborate on the differences of parents. Well, you have some parents that are for it, and you have some parents that are against it. And after further thought on the topic throughout the week, I came across the article. We will be presenting that in the video. But it pretty much opened up my eyes to the whole situation. I feel like what the media does to us, it separates us, segregates us, and puts us against each other. And so I kind of like fell back from my, vigor, so to speak, and fighting for something that I believe in. I mean, I believe in it, but I come to the realization that I should not be forcing it on other people. If people want the ability for CRT to be taught in schools, by all means, it should be taught in schools. But at the same time, you have parents that don't want it taught in schools. So the outcome that I came up with is school choice. That's been a topic in the public eye for a long time. It's something for parents that if they don't like what the schools are teaching, they can choose whatever school they would like to go to, like their kids to go to. And I think that would solve the whole issue, because now we're not fighting against each other, feeling that somebody else is infringing on our benefits or our freedoms.
Okay. Thoughts, comments, arguments, complaints, jokes.
Oh, you're talking to me. Here go a big one. I'm not too familiar about this RTC thing. So
CRT.
Hello, that's funny, huh? Yeah. CRT. Okay. CRT to me, cat running in traffic. Okay, I'll put it that way. But anyway, but if you break it down to me more, if you elaborate on it a little more, because I don't have little kids. My kids they grown now, and plus they was grown when I had them anyway. So I don't want to get into that. So anyway, but if you really elaborate on that situation about the CRT thing, because I'm not too familiar with that, because I've never heard that terms before, and being that not dealing with little kids, but I would always ask my daughter, why don't you let me come in and be the substitute, the aide in the school? You have the best class in the school.
No, I want to keep my job. Thank you. At that time, I wanted to keep it. Thank you.
The kids
I appreciate the offer, but no.
She have the best class in the school, because the kids will be doing their work and not moving and nothing like that. And I'll be going over checking the papers, and if I have to pinch them up here and there, that's what's going to happen. But anything for my daughter.
Yeah. I think you made a good decision there, Kimmy.
Right.
Don't let her in the building. Even though we did discuss CRT last week.
Yes.
Kimmy, did you have a comment you'd like to make that?
Yeah, I think I'm in agreement with Will for the most part. I do believe that it should be a choice. And I mean, if someone decides to remove their child from the school that is being taught at, I mean, obviously they're at liberty to do that. I wouldn't recommend it. I think that the people who constructed this whole critical race theory was for good reasons. And I think that is something that it does need to be taught. Not in a harsh way, although to some people it might seem like a harsh reality, but to a lot of people it just is our reality. It is what it is, and it's our reality. And there are things that, you know, slip through the cracks, and, you know, children are just not being taught these things in school. That are very valid things. Like I said, and I might have mentioned this before, with Black Wall Street. I'm a grown woman. I'm 34 years old, soon to be 35, and I had no idea what Black Wall Street was until all these riots started breaking out during the pandemic. I had no idea. It wasn't taught to me. And I went to school in the South. Not sure how that was taught in the North, but I know in a lot of different places, you know, what happened in Tulsa, just so many different things that, you know, have taken place in history. It's kind of like been sugarcoated a little bit. And I think that this theory that's been implemented into the schools, even with young children, if they can elaborate it in a way and teach them in a way where it doesn't create hatred toward the opposite race, but it just kind of like just makes them aware, a little bit more conscious. It'll be helpful for them, you know, and to help them develop a sense of confidence as well. Me personally, I think just to kind of know, like, you know, just a little bit of history. And we've come a long way as Black people, as African Americans, and even in Latino communities, and even, you know, with the Native Americans as well. But, you know, it's just something that should be implemented. And I'm not opposing it. I'm for it, honestly.
Well, you know, one of the points that Will is brought out was that people do have the option of changing the child's school, you know, location, building, whatever you want to, however you want to say it. And the problem is with that, and I'm not saying that it's not an option, that's a valid option. I'm not talking about that. But the problem is still deeper. You know, we have a system here in America, whereas everyone is chipping into the pot tax dollars for education. And on the surface, everyone, at least I was always under the impression that, you know, your dollars are going for education, okay, to get the truth, you know, whatever that truth may be, you know, at whatever level is appropriate. I mean, I'm not going to teach algebra to a kindergartner, you know, but that doesn't mean that they're not capable of understanding. I just don't see that happening right now. But critical race theory, because racism is so prevalent in our community, in the country, in the world, because of, you know, our putting it out there, the America putting it out there and living the way it lives, and the laws that we have that govern us, then the children need to understand the truth about it. You know, I mean, yeah, little kids at 5 years old, they're talking about, this is my friend, that's my friend, or whatever, like this here, whether they're black, white, or green, it doesn't matter to them, they're friends. But then as they start to grow up and you start to see some people are treated differently than other people, whether it be by law or whether it just be by, you know, what they heard their parents say at home, you know, eventually they may ask a question, well, why you treat Tommy that way and it's okay for Billy, you know, to be treated differently? Well, we don't like Tommy because he's black. Well, what's that got to do with it? You know, the kid's not going to say that, but he would think that. You know, what's that got to do with it? Why is that important? And then you go to school and you try to find out, when it comes up again, you want to find out the truth. So critical race theory, it's like, to me, it's like a home ec. You know, when I was in school, we had classes on home economics.
Me too.
And they taught, you know, how to iron, you know, how to boil eggs, you know, stuff like that there, how to use a mop. After a while, they stopped doing that. And they had shop classes, you know, we could learn woodworking and metalworking and things like that. Yeah, some people were mechanically inclined, and so they shop classes in that. But those are things that you needed to know when you became an adult. You know, I mean, I can't drive my car every day if something goes wrong and I got to go to the service station. Some things I should be able to figure out on my own, you know, and you can learn it from the guy next door, or you can learn it from your father. Why couldn't you learn it in school? So back to this race issue, you know, some of the things that we've done in this country and allowed to do and continue to do are problematic based on race. And so back to my original point, you want me as a taxpayer who doesn't have any children in school at this point in time to continue to fund an operation that is not going to tell the children the truth. That's the rub, you know. And I think that eventually people are going to figure it out, and they're going to say, look, you know, I'm voting for this representative or whatever, and they're sitting there and allowing this to continue. I want you to address this. I'm not going to sit here and pay. And then the other point, what Willis brought out, if I put my kid in a private school, I'm still paying taxes to the school district. So I'm paying out of my pocket for private school education, and I'm paying out of my pocket for public school education. Wow. And the only one that's actually doing the job that I really want done is the one I'm paying for at the private level. Mm-hmm. And so my kids are learning what they should be learning because I'm paying for it. And then all the other children that they're going to have to be dealing with when they grow up are learning something less.
Completely different. Yes.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And I still paid for it. I funded that. So I'm perpetuating ignorance. You know, I gave the example the other week about, you know, 4 people on the path to around the mountain. The first one falls off and because of the cliff, and didn't leave a message to tell the others that, yeah, there's a cliff over here, be careful. You know, that's what
I remember that one. I remember that one clearly. Because I said once I see him disappear, I know to turn back around. Yeah, damn
point
right.
Is, you don't get to see me disappear. You just don't see me no more. And that's when you fall off the cliff. Because
no, hell no, I ain't falling off no cliff. Because your ass go down, I'm going to peek over and say, I love you. I always loved you. And I hope you make, I'll say, I'm going for help. Shit, I hope you can hear.
This is what I'm talking about, paying for private education and the ones who go to public school.
I got to make a correction, though. School choice is supposed to be you can choose a different public school to go to, not necessarily pay for a private school. So like if you're in one district and the next district over has a different school system, not school system, but different curriculum, you can move your tax dollars to that district, have your daughter or child, you know, son, bust over to that district, you know, because you're paying taxes. Have them taken over there, and they'll get the same education or same public education, but you know, not private. Not, you don't have to cut another check to send your kids to a different school.
Well, that's an option too. So there are many options. The point is that you can take your kid out of one school and take them to another school, whatever the process might be, which is a problem because I live in Hempstead, and that's predominantly minority community, more Hispanic than Black, and more Black and Hispanic than white. The 2 communities that surround me, Rockville Center on one side and Garden City on the other side, are predominantly white. So if I take my kid out of Hempstead and take them over to Rockville Center, that's one more child there. Whether the tax dollars follow or not, that's still one more body in that classroom. And that means that there may be one less seat for someone who already lives there. Okay, so you know, there's a balance, and I'm not saying there's a mechanism. I understand what Will is saying, you know, that I'm not arguing that point. But, you know, everybody from Hempstead is not going, they're not going to allow everybody from Hempstead to take their kids out of the school district because they're not teaching CRT or embracing that and take them all the way up to Rockville Center because they're teaching it over there.
Well, the idea behind that is when enough parents say that they're not happy with the school system will then adjust their status and say, okay, well, all our students are trying to go over there because they're teaching this curriculum. How about we put that curriculum in our school because your tax dollars are causing them to adjust to what is requested by their constituents.
Well, that's logical. You know, the practical side is that the Board of Ed in the school district would have to be unelected and get a whole new board in there to accomplish that goal. And that's probably 3 or 4 years away. But anyway, you know, in the meantime, and in between times, the children that suffer because they're missing out on the education.
Yeah.
And it's being delayed because of this political football back and forth. Let education be education.
Right.
We're here to teach them what they need to know and what they need to understand. These children are going to grow up in a society that has been split because of race, which has no benefit other than for one side versus the other. You're going to penalize and abuse one group of people because of their color, so you can benefit. That you know, I don't see it anymore.
I'm sorry.
Go on.
I was gonna say I would highly recommend a lot of people go ahead and actually look at what is actually being done and said, because basically a lot of the things I'm hearing is that people have this idea that it's about kids being taught about slavery, and that's the whole misconception. Because if it was schools trying not to teach about slavery, I'm sure everybody would have an issue about that. But that kind of seems to be like the issue. Some people think it's the school CRT is only teaching about the truth about slavery and this, that, and the other, and so forth and so on. And that's not the actual aspect of it. And when you actually look at it and see what they're teaching and see how the teachers are telling this to kids, then I'm pretty sure it will become real to all the people that are out there that have these beliefs, because we listen to the media and say, oh, well, they're not teaching it. And then, oh, well, it's only this. Oh, well, then, I mean, there's so many different things. They're going back and forth with it. That's why I think anybody that's concerned and feels strongly about it should do that, because when we take stuff at face value, that's what gets us. It sounds great because it's like, oh, well, they're trying to stop talking about slavery. Well, we don't want them to stop talking about slavery because slavery was messed up, this, that, and the other. So you get your feelings engulfed into it. You get you get ramped up. You say, nope. I want my kids taught this. But in actuality, they sold you a bill of goods, because that's not what it is. So that's what I'm saying. Like, people feel a certain way about it because they've actually looked at it. And some people are just sold at face value. Oh, well, it's about slavery. But we went over the definition last week. CRT, critical race theory, says nothing about slavery in the definition. There is nothing about slavery being taught. It's only this person's white, they're oppressor. This person's black, you're oppressed. You need to get used to it. That's pretty much what they're doing.
You just confused me. But anyway,
it happens.
Critical race theory. It's the truth about racism in this country. And the truth is what a lot of white folks have a problem with, because it was brutal. It is brutal. It is something that's unfair.
Yeah.
And people need to understand the truth. Now, you can decide personally, I want to be a racist. I want to continue to, follow the Ku Klux Klan or whatever. That's a personal decision. What we're hoping through public education is that you're making an informed decision, that you've made it, that you understand both sides of the coin, and you've decided this is the side I'm going to be on, which is your right,
Well, I'm not, excuse me, but
go on.
excuse me for cutting you off, Larry. I don't know if I should, but I want to because I'm a very honest person. I've always tried to get involved with the Ku Klux Klans, but when I got a sheet, my eyes would come out crooked when I cut the holes in it,
Oh my
and I never got that coin
goodness.
standing straight up. So I wanted to know, how do I get to the place to let them know, how do I get this stuff over my head, and so I can be legit.
Mm,
So I don't know. We have to do classes or where I have to go at to do this because I just can't get it right. I got to see out of both of my eyes, all four of my eyes. One eye is up here, and one down here, and I can't get that cone sticking up. I'm looking
You,
forward to that.
YouTube,
So
YouTube. You can find that video on YouTube.
they
Just
can tell
type
me how
in
to.
kkk.com and you'll be right there.
Okay, but it doesn't make a difference what color sheet I wear because I like gray and blue. So I was wondering, would that be a distraction?
Yeah, that would be transgender.kkk.online. That's the website you're looking for. But for the rest of us, it ain't working.
Yeah.
I, I,
Anyway,
I do
um,
have to push back on that a little bit. That
yeah,
'cause, I mean, you said it's the truth about racism, but clearly in the definition it says critical race theory, means it's something that is theorized. It's not critical race truth. You see what I'm saying? So even if it was the truth, it wouldn't be a theory. You see what I'm saying? But they're given a theory about how races is being applied to the laws in the land, which is, hey, that's legit. That happens. But what I'm saying is what they're actually teaching, that's what the parents are being is being glossed over, and because it's sold as they're not want to, they don't want to teach about slavery. And once you hear that they don't want to teach about slavery, everybody's going to be like, that's crazy. That makes no sense.
Mhm.
We all know that slavery happened. I was taught about slavery in school. You was taught about slavery in school. Everybody on the panel was taught about slavery in school. So when somebody says something like that, it's like, man, these people are out of their mind. I'm against that totally. I want that in school. But like I said, when you actually look into it, because like I said, once your emotions are into it, you're like, man, no, because it's about slavery. They're trying not to do this. And you already pick a side. But when you actually look into it, you'll see what the actual schools are doing, the curriculum and everything like that. You'll be like, no, that's not what I was under the impression of. They do it all the time. It's just like you go to a car lot and you see a nice shiny car. It looks really good. You take for granted that the engine's in the car. You go ahead and buy it. You go to start it up, it don't start. Like, well, what's wrong with it? Because at face value, it looks great. You see, so I'm just saying, look at the engine, kick the tires, make sure that there's some seats in the car before you say, hey, I'm gonna go ahead and drop my money on this thing. That's all I'm saying.
oh, I understand.
Okay, good.
And I'm
May I
wondering
say
too.
something?
Mhm. Go ahead, Ma.
Excuse me.
Mhm.
What I'm saying is, like, as far as racism being taught in the schools and stuff, I think if more of us as black people stepped up and took time out with their kids and explained to them this and instilled it in their head, so when they go to school, they can already make the judgment for themselves. Well, my mom didn't say that, and I seen this in this book that she showed me or whatever. So that is not true. I think if we put more emphasis in ourselves about this racism stuff, and because we're talking about us, what happened to us? You understand what I'm saying? So, but a lot of people like ourselves don't take that time with their kids out to sit down and say, this is what took place, and you should be aware of this and know how to go on in school and do what you have to do. But if you don't feel that what the teacher is saying is true, raise your hand and say, no, I wasn't taught that. This is what happened. Ba, 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 is the situation right here. So this way, it's a little bit of lack of them being deterred, to believe some things of that nature that didn't occur. You can get it full force from your family, but a lot of us don't take time to do that, to take our kids to the libraries and read up on this type of stuff. You understand what I'm saying?
I mean,
I
I
love the
think too, Ma.
library.
Mhm.
Um,
Not to cut
Kimmy?
you off,
I don't
Ma. I
have no
think
library.
too.
Oh
You love
Kimmy?
your
Go ahead, honey.
library?
Yes, but I don't have no library card, so go ahead with that. Yeah.
Kimmy.
Okay. Um, I think that I agree with what you're saying too, Man. I think that the benefit of teaching it inside the classroom too is that even though we are teaching our children the history of it too, I think the benefit of teaching it in a diverse classroom is to kind of show, like, you know, this is kind of what happened to Black people, right? And, you know, but this doesn't need to continue to happen, right? So it kind of changes the dynamics moving forward. And I think that that's why so many people to a certain extent are against it, because a lot of people don't want the dynamics to change. They're benefiting greatly off of it being just the way that it is. So
Well,
go ahead.
that is true. That's one of the issues that we're facing here. Will?
They're not teaching history. That's the issue. They're teaching kids how to look at themselves as being oppressor and oppressed. That's not history. That's not saying Harriet Tubman went through this, that, and the other. That's not saying Frederick Douglass did this, that, and the other, and these things, and this, that, and the other. And George Washington Carver did all these inventions with the peanut. It's not teaching that. That's the issue. What I'm saying, it's not about history. It's about saying this is you right now. You know what I'm saying? And you are this, you are that. Whether you believe it or not, this is your color. This is what you are. You'll never be more than this. You're this color. You'll never be more than this. And that's what the issue is. It's not about history, because the history, everybody knows what the history is. And if you're not teaching, we all learned about slavery in school. You know, if you don't feel like it's enough, that's one thing. But a whole theory, like I said, critical race theory, is critical race and how it's applied to law. That's still, even in the definition, if you read it, it does not say anything about history. It doesn't say anything about slavery. It's a theory, and it's not teaching history. That's what I'm trying to get people to understand. When we hear, oh, it's history, they're not trying to teach it. It's like, how can you not teach our history? We're here. You see what I'm saying? And that's what gets most people like us up in arms, because it's like, how can you not teach about slavery? You see what I'm saying? So everybody.
I think that, you know, I understand what you're saying. It's kind of like a cake, you know, and, you know, a cake that happens to be sweet. You know, the cake is good and it's sweet, but you skipped all over the fact that it's got sugar in it. And the point of this whole conversation is that while critical race theory is a theory, the point of it when it first started was focused on the laws that we have in this country and how they have negatively impacted people by race. Critical race theory, when we start talking about it in education, you know, not specifically educating lawyers, but education in general. A lot of people are concerned about how their children, Black or white, will feel when they start to have conversations on the things that we have done as a country over the years. So, for example, as you start to talk about cotton and the fact that that is one of the things that driving forces that turned our economy to the success that it's facing, is that we sold cotton, we grew it and we sold it because if we could make money. At the same time, we were able to make more money by not paying Black people to do the work. And then while we're talking about the fact that we were getting Black people to do the work, we weren't paying them. So when you start looking at going into business now at your age, you know, you have to have a product that's developed or put together or manufactured by people, and those people need to get paid. And so now you start to look around, well, we doing well in my household because we got that cotton money behind us. That's
the generational wealth.
And my friend here, Johnny, who's Black, you know, he ain't got the kind of money we got because he ain't got that cotton money that he should have got from his parents who worked and did the work for me to get mine. All right. So now you start to understand that people will, no matter how you paint it, no matter how you color it or how you teach it, people are going to understand that this society is imbalanced because of race. And so when you start to get critical there and you say, look, well, I'm white and you're black, and right now my wealth is greater than yours because you're black and I'm white. That makes me superior. That's a falsehood. That's a problem. It's a problem that we face every day, because this whole thing with slavery as the underlying issue has put people in the position of, I'm better than you. You're not better than me. You know, you just happen to have an advantage.
Right.
And that same advantage is in the cake. It's the sugar in the cake. You know, until you start looking at the sugar in the cake, you don't know how deep racism has run and continues to run. This is what critical race theory is bringing you to understand. The theory is, you know, where it started, but the reality is when you start to really get into it and talk about it, yeah, some people are going to be uncomfortable sitting in the classroom hearing this, because they're going to realize that don't make a lot of sense.
And it's not fair, right? Especially for kids, they're going to realize it's not fair.
I wouldn't be happy about it. And I can understand why Black people aren't happy with it, because they're wearing that shoe. So while we understand that there are a lot of dynamics here, we have to understand that at the end of the day, as long as the truth is being presented so people can understand on both sides, this ain't personal. You know, you don't have to be in the classroom to learn about what happened. Most people will not spend time outside of the classroom to learn about things. That's their choice. But if I'm paying for a classroom to be built and managed, I want the truth to be taught, not just what you think is okay because you don't want to feel uncomfortable. Yeah. That's the crust of critical race theory. Yes, Will.
That's not correct. Here's the thing, right? It's not. I got to be honest with you, because that's the thing that keeps being perpetuated into society, because people are not doing their due diligence and checking into it. Like I said, we're being sold a bill of goods that critical race theory is about history and about this. But okay, for instance, like say we were Caucasian, Dad and me, right? Would you want me as a fifth grader coming home from school saying, Dad, I just learned that I'm an oppressor, and we got to oppress Jeanette, and we got to oppress Kimmy because we're white? You'd be like, what the heck are they teaching you in school, son? That ain't
white.
I have to.
No, if I was with me and my father were white, that's what they're
teaching. Okay. Because
they're currently teaching kids that the white kids are currently oppressors. Not that their ancestors were oppressors. They're teaching them that they're oppressors, and the Black kids of today are being oppressed just because they're Black. They're not teaching history. They're generating another generation of race of oppressors and oppressed. That's what they're doing.
And I want to ask too, Will, like when you reference that, I just want to know like where you getting, like if you could forward that information to me, where you seeing these videos at, because I know there was a period in time where certain schools we did do certain experiments with students. So I'm wondering if that's like a mix of kind of what maybe some people are seeing, or maybe what's being pushed in the media to make people kind of think. Like there was experiments where people would kind of would come into the classrooms and deal with the children and kind of show them. Like, and it was an experiment. It wasn't like they were really, this was not like really a part of their curriculum, so to speak, but maybe this was like the opening groundwork for it. But it kind of just said like, hey, all of you guys are Black, you sit on this side of the room. All you guys are white, you sit on that side of the room. Now that was an experiment. So I understand how somebody can be frustrated by that, but that tool was used in order to sort of kind of jog the children's mind a little bit to make them see, like, listen, this is what it really was like for your ancestors back in the day. And I understand how that can be frustrating for some people, but that's the reality of, that's our reality. You know what I mean? So I can see how some Caucasian parents might say, what? You know, that's crazy. We saying the same thing. Yes, it's crazy, you know, and it's been crazy for a long time. But these are experiments. I was in a classroom where we had to do it. It was with our, well, not older, but like I think we did it maybe in 4th or 3rd grade students, and it was uncomfortable. And honestly, some of the students did cry. It was a very emotional moment, right? And we got authorization to do it. But the thing is, it was just an example to show them, you know, unfortunately, these are the things that happen to in our country, right? But we're better than that, right? And it's gonna motivate some feelings, it's gonna motivate some uncomfortability, but it's all for a good purpose, right?
Now imagine that being taught math, science, social studies. That type of experiment that you said was probably done in a history class, right?
Well, it was actually like in a gen ed class where we have all classes in one classroom, but it was like an experiment for like just for social studies. Yes.
Okay. Now, this is what they're trying to put in the schools in every subject, teaching that same thing, like separating white kids from black kids. Say, hey, this, because you're this is what's going on. Because you're this is what's going on. And
I
that's
don't know
what
how
the
true that is. I don't know how
that's
true.
what I'm saying.
I need to look into that,
We need to
because
look it up.
I know
That's what I'm
that
saying.
the people who are, not to cut you off, the people who are opposing this movement are gonna, like you said, the media, they're gonna try to push their angle, right? At the same time, while the people who actually initiated this theory is gonna push their angle. So there might be a little bit of, you know, exaggeration in there. So I don't know. We should. I need the links to try to see if I could look into that further, because I know there's a lot of underlying factors, like you said too. So
based on your experience, you know that they did experiments, and this is what I'm trying to bring to light. Before we had the show, I never knew what you went through with that. You know, I'm pretty sure my father didn't know. I'm pretty sure my aunt didn't know. But this is what's coming to light as you have that discussion and have you look into stuff, because we don't know. we don't know what we don't know. You know, and that's the honest thing about it.
But I'm not opposing that, though. Honestly, I'm not opposing that. Sorry to cut you off, Uncle. I'm not opposing that, right? Because what I noticed from that experiment is that it sort of brought.
Oh, you muted your mic.
No. Okay. Can you hear me? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. What I noticed happened with the kids, right? And these are smaller kids, is that it kind of unified them a little bit more. You know, they were a little bit more sensitive, you know, to their friends. You know what I mean? And I think that that's where the motivation is coming from with this theory and with this movement. It's kind of trying to tell the opposing party, like, listen, we're not angry at you, we're upset at what happened, right? And in order for us to change the way the foundation is being laid moving forward, somebody's got to be uncomfortable. We had to suffer being uncomfortable without a choice, right? And now they have a choice, which it shouldn't be, but I mean, that's the land that we live in. So somebody's got to be uncomfortable for a little bit, and that's okay.
I wanted to say this. I wanted to say that, you know, like back in the years when I was going to school, I didn't, you know, they didn't, you know, teach like, you know, Black history and the slavery thing or whatever, you know, like that. But today, I have to give kids credit, even though, you know, they stray off a little bit, but they are much more aware. These little kids are much more aware about, we're not giving them as much as credit as is due, because a teacher could be like, well, yes, there was slavery and they used to pick cotton and stuff like that. And a little 5-year-old kid said, yes, well, we did that then, but we definitely not going to do that no more. You understand what I'm saying? That happened then, we're talking about now, you know? So I don't think we're giving the kids much as credit as we should be giving it to them, because they're not sitting back in the class letting their Caucasian teacher tell them about their history and what is their future. You understand what I'm saying? they turning it around telling the teacher what your future gonna be if you don't get this stuff together, you know. So I don't think that we are giving them enough credit, you know. So you can dot down or jot down anything that you want to say about this RC. Wait a minute, let me get it together.
CRT.
The CRT thing, you know. So racism is going to keep putting out stuff as long as we keep as long as we keep paying it attention, you know. If long as we keep paying it attention, because we're like following them like little lost stray dogs or whatever.
I
But
don't
we
know if
pay
it's
more
that much. I
attention.
don't know.
No, listen, excuse me, sweet. But
I'm
as long
sorry.
as if we start doing what we have to do and stop paying about and change this RCT thing over to WDW, doing what we need to do for us,
Mm-hmm.
you know,
Yeah.
and leave all that other stuff alone or whatever. I think it's not going to be as big as it is. I think eventually it's going to go away. Eventually it's going to go away because because they
Can't hear you.
Hello?
feeding them and feeding them and feeding them. It's just like a child. You know, the more you keep feeding the child, the more they're gonna start looking like you. But if we start, you know, leaving that alone and start doing focusing on more what we have to do and opening up centers and stuff so our little kids can come to, and people taking time to go around the places and gathering up kids and sitting down reading books to them and things of that nature and stuff like that. For instance, I was at Kimmy's house. You know, it's a very unruly. But anyway, and her son was running around with his two little friends. So, you know, I'm trying to chill out, get my little groove on or whatever, and they're disturbing me, you know. So I didn't want to tape them up against the wall, you know, then duct
Thankfully.
tape their mouths and stuff like that, because then Kimmy would think I was an abuser and somebody may call on. I have to sit up and watch the door. So when she opened it, say, don't open it too wide because they behind the door, you know. But I said, look, come in here and sit down. I said, I'm going to read this Black History book to y'all so you listen to every word I say. And when you got it, when I read through the paragraph and ask your question, one of y'all or all of y'all better raise your hand or you're going to get what's coming to you. Because that's showing me that you're not paying attention. Y'all ready for this? Yeah, Grandma. Yeah, Grandma. I said, okay, I'm reading. I said, well, David, you know, he was you know, he was a slave. He taught himself to read and I ran it down. So I went on to reading something else. I came back to, I said, well, who was David? Zion, my grandson. I knew it too. Raised his hand. I said, um, who is he? He said he was a poet, he was a slave, and he taught himself to read, and he was a potterer. I said, see, that's what I'm talking about. See, now I ain't got to slam y'all around, because y'all got it. Y'all got it. You understand what I'm saying? If we just take time to read to our kids and tell them, you know, what the real deal is, they'll start listening more to us because they're not going to listen to the other people because that it doesn't coincide. It doesn't coincide. You're not in my household. So how you going to tell me something that went on or whatever, or that's going on, or that you're going to think that's going to keep going on? You're not going to do that. You're not going to do that. So this is what I'm saying is it's what we're teaching our kids at home right now today. These kids are much more advanced than what you know. Because you go to a certain school and the teacher tell you that you really didn't pick cotton from during the dust. One of them little 5 years may pull out a gun on you and say that again. Because we did. We did do it. You know? Shit.
Okay,
So
okay. So we got that point, and
yes,
it's
yes,
time for
yes.
Will to make his announcement.
Oh, well, appreciate all our viewers, and we would like to extend the opportunity to make recommendations for topics you would like to hear us discuss on here, or if you would like to be a part of the panel, please send us a request on the comment section, and we'll see about getting you on the show or getting your topic discussed on the show. Thank you.
Okay, Will, you want to close out?
Well, I would like to say thank you to all the panelists and the host, and we appreciate everybody and their input, and hopefully we were a benefit to all of you, all of our viewers, and we'll see you again next week if the creek don't rise.
God willing and the creek don't rise.
God willing and the creek don't rise.
Yes.
Bless you.
Yes.
God bless.
Bless all.
God bless everyone.